Good evening, students. Today we are going to discuss the third part of the lesson, the nationalism in Europe. The topic is the age of revolutions from 1830 to 1848. So the first thing we have to discuss here, how the feeling of nationalism was developed in Europe. The answer is, when the conservative people were trying to consolidate their power, nationalist liberals, they were found very closely to the revolutions in the different parts of the Europe, like Italian states and German states, some part of the Ottoman Empire, Ireland and Poland. These all revolutions were led by the educated middle classes, which included professors, school teachers, clerks and even some members of the commercial classes as well. The next thing is, where did the first revolution occur? The first upheaval of this revolution happened in July 1830 in France. There, Bourbon kings were restored to the power during the conservative time after the 1850. These Bourbon kings were overthrown from the power and they established constitutional monarchy under the Philip, as it said. So here they wanted to create the nation which will be guided by the constitution. So when this revolution happened, Metternich, Clemens Metternich, who was the German diplomat and working as the foreign minister in the Austria's government, he said that when France sneezes, the rest of the Europe automatically catches the cold. It means that time most of the countries of Europe were following the example of the France, and because of that only, after observing that upheaval in the France, the same upheaval arose in the Brussels as well, and it resulted in the breaking away of the Belgium from the United Kingdom of the Netherlands. So here we learn about the two topics. One is the French Revolution of 1830 and upheaval in the Brussels in Belgium. Now, the most important event which mobilized the nationalist sentiment in Europe, and that was the Greek War of Independence. So now I will tell you what was the Greek War of Independence. This topic is very important. So as we know, Greek was under the dominance of Ottoman Empire from near about 15th century. So here, when they saw the development of the nationalism in Europe, they decided to struggle for the independence. And this independence struggle was supported by the Greeks, those who were living in the exile, as well as some Western European people also supported this struggle because they had very deep sympathy about the European culture, means mainly Greek culture. Because poets and artists described Greek as a cradle of the European civilization, means they were thinking that Greek culture is the main source of the European culture, and because of that everyone was supporting that struggle to get the independence from the Ottoman Empire. For example, I will give you English poet Lord Byron. He organized the fund for that freedom struggle. Even after some time he joined the army, where he died of fever in 1824. And lastly, with the agreement of, or you can say the Treaty of Constantinople in 1832, Greece was declared as the independent nation. So here, are you clear about the great independent war of Greece? So there will be separate question. Describe the independence war of Greece. Now we saw that at different places revolutions were happening, but now we are going to learn about one new topic, and that is Romanticism. Romanticism and the idea of the nation. Here you have to remember one thing, that the feeling of nationalism was not created only through the war and the territorial expansion. Even culture also played a very important role in the creating the feeling of nationalism. And because of that, we have to learn about the cultural programs also. So here, culture, language, prose, poetry, music, these all things played a very important role in the creation of or the development of the nationalism. So now there will be question, what is meant by romanticism and how it played an important role in the creation or the development of the national feeling. So here I am giving the answer. Romanticism was a cultural movement which sought to develop a particular type of or particular kind of national feelings in Europe. So here that cultural or you can say artists and poets, this romanticism or romantic artists and poets, they always tried to criticize the glorification of the reason and science. Instead of that, they focused on emotions, intuition and mystical feelings. Here they wanted to create that this culture should be the main basis of the nation. So for example, I will give you that you would have heard the name of the John Gottfried Herder. He was the German philosopher. He claimed that if you want to discover the real European culture, it should be discovered from the common people in their language, das Volk. And because of that, he started collecting folklore, folk songs, folk poetry, folk dances. And these things only can give us the authentic information about the European culture. That was his belief. So in this way, the collection of the folklore and recording this folklore or folk literature was also considered as the very important step in the creation of the nationalism. So here recording means to preserving. So in this way, not only war, even culture also played a very important role. The next thing is the focus on the culture and the vernacular language was not to only discover the past culture. It was for to carry the message of nationalism to a large number of audiences which were mostly illiterate in Europe. And so because of that, these people tried to reach them to spread the feeling of nationalism. So in this way, culture, language, poetry also played a very important role in the creation of the nationalism. Now, the last point I will tell you, even language also played a very important role in the creation of nationalism. As I told you, that if you will see the example of the Poland, during the last part of the 18th century, Poland was partitioned between the mega powers, or you can say the powerful countries like Prussia, Austria, Russia. Even though Poland was not the unified territory, still the feelings of nationalism was kept alive through the music and culture. So in the same thing, we can think about the Poland only regarding the language also. Language and culture both played the very important role in the creation of the nationalism. So I will tell you the story about the Poland. After the occupation of Poland by the Russia, Polish language was taken away from the school and Russian language was imposed everywhere in Poland. So people started opposing this measure, and because of that, maximum or most of the clergy people, they started using Polish language for preaching and all the social gatherings. And because of that, Russian authorities got angry. So against the Russian authority, in 1831, they organized one armed revolt, which was ultimately crushed by, demolished by the government. But after that, clergy people used language as the symbol of national struggle against the Russian dominance. So as a result, so many clergies and bishops were put in the jail, or they were asked to go to the Serbia. So in this way, the use of Polish language became the symbol of resistance against the Russia. So in this way, in this video, we have seen how nationalism was developed in Europe, what was the Russian dominance over the Poland, what was the French Revolution of 1830, what was the Greek War of Independence, how culture, language played an important role in the creation of the nationalism. So, thank you. I will stop here. Next part I will discuss in the next video.